Service. The tax agency is apologizing today for unfairly targeting conservative political groups for additional reviews during the 2012 election. They admit they did it. Jay Sekulow is an attorney and chief counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice. He represented 27 of the groups targeted by the agency. They admit they did it because you forced them to admit they did it. Tell us how it started.
It started with a number of what they call information requests coming into over 30 of these Tea Party groups and conservative organizations, and they came out fairly simultaneously. Megan, they asked for the list of the contributors, who the donors were, who the members were, what conversations they had with individuals. So all of this was going on in the form of what's called an information request. And when we got these, which of course was before the elections, as everything was heating up, we sent back a series of letter briefs saying that the Supreme Court has already held that this information is not subject to inquiry. You don't get donor information.
Because these are tax-exempt organizations, and
right.
The IRS was doing this under the auspices of, well, we'll just see if you deserve to be tax-exempt.
Well, and they also acknowledge now, of course, that they were targeting groups that had the name Tea Party in it or Patriot, which, of course, is also unconstitutional. But what everybody needs to understand is we've been battling with the IRS for over a year on this, and it was about a year and a month ago that the then head of the IRS said these Tea Party investigations were not any way partisan. There was no partisan involvement whatsoever. And now, of course, they come out saying, well, they're not acknowledging they're partisan, but they will say it was targeted to individuals with those names, Tea Party groups, and that they mishandled. It was handled incorrectly, and they apologized. Well, but, you know, that's wonderful. I've got about 1,300 legal hours in these cases. As you can imagine, you're a lawyer with this amount of cases. So the apology is wonderful. We've got 14 of these resolved. I'm demanding that the IRS close these other ones out and get those exemption letters immediately. This whole thing's absurd, and I think what Darrell Issa is calling for needs to happen. It's oversight here. And they're also, we're saying, by the way, Megan, which is incorrect, that it was one group of agents out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, they say this was initiated by low-level workers in Cincinnati.
Yeah, first of all, low-level, these are Internal Revenue Service agents. So this is not low-level, and it's signed off by their group manager. I was an IRS prosecutor. I worked for Treasury. So that's nonsense. And by the way, Megan, I've got letters from California, Cincinnati, the District of Columbia, and on it goes. So this was maybe coordinated by different offices, but this idea of laying this off at, quote, low-level employees is nonsense. We brought this to the commissioner's attention, and we finally are getting a result. But this is what the IRS did here is outrageous.
So now Issa wants oversight, and Senator Mitch McConnell has called on the Obama administration for a government-wide review in response to what he says an IRS admission of harassment. Are we going to have somebody overseeing them quickly, Jay, to make sure this doesn't happen to other groups on a go-forward basis?
There needs to be government oversight here of why this happened, who let it happen, and why, when it was known by the top that it was going on, that they didn't stop it.
Wow. Jay Sekulow, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Megan.
Coming up, a possible breakthrough on how you can detect heart disease from your fingers. We'll tell you about it. Plus, breaking news from Cleveland in moments on some good news for one of the victims. Stay tuned.